Thank you. Hare Krishna. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. As I always say, there's lots of things you could be doing on a Sunday afternoon, but you chose to come here, so that's very inspiring to me that you're serious about spiritual life. I was just reading the verse Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Yabhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam, that Krishna is situated in everyone's heart as the Paramatma, the Supersoul. And he cleanses away the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the truthful devotee who has developed an urge to hear his messages, which in themselves are virtuous when properly heard and chanted. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada makes the statement that Krishna is more anxious for us to come back to him than we could ever desire. And that actually very few people want to go back to Godhead. So it's always wonderful to be in the association of devotees who want to go back to Godhead. There's something indescribable, practically speaking, about this association. So thank you all for being here. We'll begin with, do we have a mridanga player? Doesn't matter if we don't. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Pariraja Kacharya Ashto Tarasat Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My name is Bhagavat Ashraya Dasa, and I was just thinking of Keshava Maharaj yesterday making the point that you could tell by his accent he's not from the west coast of America. So I'm not from the west coast of America either. I'm from Australia. But I very much like the west coast of America. I want to read a verse from Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll have a little talk and some discussion about it. Verse number 59 of chapter 2. The verse is, Vishaya vinivatante niraharashyate hinaha rasavajam rasopyasya param drishtva nivatate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one is transcendentally situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulations is sometimes like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, etc., is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good until one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. Umagyanati mirantasya gyananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam jena tasmaye Shri Gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobistam stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu, Jagat Pate, Gopesha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Brishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarine. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayati girim jatkripatam aham vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam. So I'm always enlivened by this verse for several reasons. The first, in terms of the first part of the verse, that says, though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. Now, on the one hand, in regard to this statement, we can consider how, as aspiring devotees, we restrict ourselves in sense gratification by following certain rules and regulations and accepting regulative principles. And that's a fact. We become restricted in that way. But you can also expand this out to the situation of all souls in the material world. Actually, everyone is restricted in sense enjoyment in the sense that whatever level of sense enjoyment you have, you want more, but you're not able to acquire it. You may want to buy a Lexus, but all you can afford is a Corolla. But that doesn't mean you're still not hankering to have a Lexus. So the idea is that as long as one is embodied, the taste for sense objects is there. The taste for sense objects is there. That's why we're embodied. We have a taste for material objects. Material desires have been motivating us in our activities. Prabhupada explains later on in the 13th chapter a very nice purport to verse 22, where he says that one of the things he says is that the living being has had material desires since time immemorial. There's a lot to be unpacked in that statement, since time immemorial. The amount of time that we have been in this material world is incalculable. Therefore, conditioned souls, deeply conditioned souls. One lecture I recall, Srila Prabhupada was talking about how the miseries of material existence, sangstrita, they come one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. And he says, actually, this has been going on since the beginning of creation. And then he says, what to speak of this creation? We have been in the material world for billions of creations. Now, billion was a really strong buzzword in the late 60s, early 70s, because there were millionaires around, but there weren't many billionaires. Now we talk about billionaires like, and national budgets, they were talked about in terms of billions of dollars, but now there's many billionaires, and we're even considering that there'll be trillionaires shortly, and national budgets are measured in trillions of dollars. But at that time, billions was, really, took your breath away when that idea was presented, that you've been in the material world for billions of creations. But that's just to give it a sense of it. There's no telling how long we've been in the material world. You add 3 zeros and you have a trillion. You add 3 more zeros, you have quadrillion. Then it goes on and on and on. So we've been in the material world pursuing material desires since time immemorial. And the reality of material existence is that, as the saying goes, all that glitters is not gold. We have an idea that if we can acquire some particular thing, if we can have proprietorship of some particular situation or object, then we will feel happy, we'll feel satisfied. But the nature of material energy is such that that never happens. No matter what you acquire, it's not going to satisfy. It's not going to be what you thought it was going to be. That's just the way of the material world. There is no satisfaction in the material world because, as we understand, and this is so important to understand, all throughout the development of our spiritual consciousness, that we're out of place here. We don't belong in the material world. We don't need to be in the material world to be alive and to be happy. One time in London, one journalist was brought to meet Srila Prabhupada, and he asked Srila Prabhupada, what's the purpose of life? And Prabhupada immediately said, the purpose of life is to enjoy. But we have forgotten what is the actual standard of enjoyment, what enjoyment really means. And we've become entangled in this cycle of desire and disappointment in the material world. We're addicted to this. Addicted to this. Surrendered to this, given over to this, controlled by this. These desires for objects of the senses run very, very deep in our consciousness. And they don't disappear immediately. And that's the other important point here in this verse, that even though you voluntarily restrict your sensual activities in order to make spiritual advancement, the taste for sense objects is there within us. It's within our mind, within our senses, and within our intelligence. And we have been conditioned to thinking and acting and willing simply to satisfy these tastes that we have. And suddenly, we're not doing that. We're doing something else. And actually, with an impersonal understanding or with an impersonal conception of the goal of doing this, that we will merge into some supreme featureless consciousness. It's very difficult to describe this because there's not a proper understanding, even amongst impersonalists, about what impersonalism actually is. But unless we have a higher taste of engagement, then we can't actually become immune to the influence of desires for sense gratification. Eventually, something will trip us up. So in this regard, we can reflect on how Srila Prabhupada introduced Krishna consciousness into the Western world. He encouraged everyone to chant Hare Krishna and take Krishna Prasadam. Positive engagement, which gives us, as this verse says, a higher taste. a taste of something other than mundane sense gratification. Engaging our senses in activities which we engage in all the time, hearing and chanting and eating. Hearing and speaking, hearing and singing, and eating. And speaking. Srila Prabhupada came with a positive engagement that enabled the devotees, enables us all to actually acquire a higher taste. He didn't introduce the regulative principles to the devotees until the night before the first initiations. Now just imagine if he'd come and said, you follow these 4 principles, and when you're fixed in these principles, I'll give you something else to do. It would not have worked, because you cannot actually become fixed in these principles unless you become fixed in a higher taste, unless your consciousness becomes purified by contact with the higher taste. And as Prabhupada says here, when one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. It's automatic. It drops away. It's like animals, like now, the squirrels, they're starting to get their winter coat. But then when the spring comes, they molt that. It just drops away. Or a snake. There's a point in the life cycle of a snake where they have to shed their skin. And generally speaking, what the snake does is gets an itch on the tip of its nose, and by scratching that on a rock, it breaks the skin. And that lets the air in under the skin, and gradually it just goes all the way along, and at one point the snake just slithers out, and there's the skin. Sometimes when you're walking, in Australia, sometimes when you're walking in the bush, you can get a real scare because you look down and you think there's a snake there. But then you look again and it's just the skin of a snake. But those things are controlled by the modes of nature, and it's natural in the life cycle of these animals that things that are not needed, when they are not needed, they just drop away. But as I'm saying, the taste, or as Krishna is saying here, the taste for sense objects remains. And so long as one has a material body, one should be very cautious about this. In the Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada explains that so long as one has a material body, one should conduct oneself as a neophyte. Because we have a material body and we are in the material atmosphere. So the possibility of becoming contaminated or infected again, or the possibility of some dormant desire that's still there within our hearts becoming activated is always there. One should never consider oneself above these things. But the but in this verse is very, very important, as we see. Ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste. By experiencing a higher taste. This is one of the most wonderful things about the Krishna consciousness philosophy, is that it is experiential. You don't have to believe anything. You can be as skeptical as you like, but then you're presented with a proposition by Srila Prabhupada: chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Chant Hare Krishna and you'll become happy. So if you seriously conduct that experiment, it's true, isn't it? You feel happy. You feel happy. Even before you take on the regulative principles. You feel happiness from within. You feel a happiness arising from within your heart, deep within your heart, that you've, somehow or another it seems very familiar, but on the other hand, there's nothing else you've experienced in this life. Nothing else. But it is an experience that you cannot deny. This is a very beautiful thing because it enables you then to, as it says, realize this philosophy. Make it real. Make it a very real thing in your life, in your consciousness. That I'm experiencing a taste of happiness and satisfaction that I cannot find through contact of my senses with objects of the senses. Never available. So that's a very important but, because going back to my first point, that even if you are not consciously restricting yourself within principles and rules and regulations, even if you're living a totally hedonistic lifestyle, you are restricted in sense enjoyment. You can never get enough. You can never get the satisfaction that you're looking for, no matter what you try. So therefore, you're trapped. It's a trapped situation. The taste for sense objects never goes away. But, you see the point? But it pivots completely in the second half of the verse. Ceasing such engagements, not by restricting yourself, but by experiencing a higher taste. Then, as it says here, as you become fixed in consciousness, the taste for these pale things automatically drops away, just like the skin of the snake just drops away. It's gone. Or when the spring comes, the squirrel's fur just molts away back to a summer coat. How long do we go for? Till 5 o'clock. So maybe we can open up for a little discussion or questions, and then we can talk some more. Does anyone have any questions or personal reflections on what I've been talking about? Yes, sir.
What is a good first step? Oh, sorry.
Wait for the mic.
What is the good first step to go towards higher taste? Is it reading the Gita or coming to temple, or is there recommendations of how to elevate your taste?
Well, Srila Prabhupada, he put it very simply. He said, wherever you bite the gingerbread man, he tastes the same. So first of all, you go with what attracts you. I used to run a preaching center in downtown Melbourne, and there was this one lady came in one day, and she was obnoxious, to say the least. She was foul-mouthed, and she was suspicious of what we were doing, but somehow or another we got her to sit down and take a meal, and she ate the prasadam, and she liked it. And she kept coming back. She didn't want to know about anything else. I just want that food. Don't bother me. Don't try and tell me anything, nothing. I just want that food. So we'd feed her every day. And I guess it must have been after about a month or so, I had to go to Sydney on another service for a few months. I think I was gone about 6 months. And then I came back to take up my service at that preaching center again. And the first day I went down there, I was greeted by this lady, this woman in a sari and tilak, and she was radiantly bright, and she was really, really polite and really glad to see me. And I was thinking, do I know this? Who is? And then I realized it was that woman. It was that woman who'd come in that day and was just so obnoxious. But she kept coming and she kept taking prasadam. And then gradually her demeanor softened, Her heart softened. She began to respect what was going on. And then she started asking questions. And then the devotees explained to her that, well, if you chant this mantra, your consciousness will become clearer and you'll be able to understand a lot of things, and you'll feel a lot of relief from the stresses and miseries that you're undergoing in your life. And she did it. So like over I guess probably a 9-month period of time, primarily from taking prasadam. My wife, when she first joined the temple, she was very, very attracted to the flower arrangements, the garlands and the flower arrangements. And so she took on the service of going to the markets to buy the flowers. She didn't know anything when she first joined, but that was her attraction, and that led her deeper and deeper into serving the Lord on the altar, becoming pujari, and then she began to design dresses for them and so on and so forth. So it's, in one sense, it doesn't matter where you start. Krishna is absolute. So anything to do with Krishna is absolute. It's Krishna, actually. So the main thing is to somehow or another acquire this taste. Whatever draws you in, you follow that. Yes?
Yeah, I think music seems to be working too. There's a lot of kirtan and chanting. And next weekend in LA, there's Bhakti Fest, which is a 3-day devotional chanting. A lot of people get exposed there, and the music and the chanting leads them deeper. So food and music.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, there are other devotees who are very much drawn to the philosophy, and they become very deep students of Srila Prabhupada's books. The point is that, like I said, Prabhupada said, wherever you bite the gingerbread man, he tastes the same. That anything to do with Krishna is attractive according to your nature. So there's a very important verse in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, even a man of knowledge follows his nature. So the Krishna consciousness movement is actually so complete that it doesn't matter what your particular position is in regard to your conditioning and what your nature is, what attracts you. You can find that in Krishna. Hare Krishna. That's a good question. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. What would be the consequences of artificially suppressing desires for sense enjoyment while still on the way for developing the higher taste?
What would be the
Consequences
result of suppressing desires?
Yeah, artificially.
What would be the result of suppressing desires on the path of Krishna consciousness? Material desires. Well, if you suppress anything, it's going to express somewhere, somehow. Like the root word is press. Something's pressing. So then you think of all those words. There's impress, express, depress, oppress, suppress, repress. Something's pressing, something's pushing you. So if you push things down, then they're going to, it's like your consciousness is like a, what do they call it, a hydraulic system, where something gets pressed down and there must be a release valve somewhere, yes? Or something will blow, as they say, it'll blow out. So if you repress things, actually you're playing into the hands of Maya here. We have a process, 6 loving exchanges with devotees. The giving of gifts, the receiving of gifts, the serving of prasadam, the receiving of prasadam, revealing your mind in confidence, and hearing another reveal your mind in confidence. If you have material desires, we all have material desires. We all have material desires. And Srila Prabhupada explains right in the beginning of the Bhagavatam that it takes time. Actually, in this verse, Srinvatam Swat Katha Krishna, Prabhupada explains how we've been in contact with money and women since time immemorial. And the desire to enjoy these things is there within the heart of all of us. And Prabhupada says it takes time. It takes time to recover from this unnatural situation. So the fundamental process is there, the hearing and chanting of the holy name, the appearance, regular appearance in classes on the Bhagavatam, reading the Bhagavatam. Is gradually purifying our consciousness, and these desires will go away. But if you say, well, I'm repressing them, means you're holding on to them. And the way Maya works is that the divide and conquer principle, that you become isolated from other devotees because you're meditating on objects of the senses. Whereas if you have confidential friends that you can talk about these things with, you realize everybody's facing these challenges. And therefore, by understanding that you're not alone, that's an illusion. We're all conditioned souls. And by staying in the Sangha of devotees that you can develop love and trust with, and by going deeper and deeper into the process of hearing and chanting, then as everything is explained, Tada rajas tamo bhava kama loba dayas chaye, that then the influence of the lower modes begins to recede and lustiness and greediness begins to go away. Therefore, in that regard also, it's no accident that after Krishna explains in the 2nd chapter here that, first of all, we're eternal living beings, then as embodied souls, we're passing through childhood, youth, old age, and then to another body at death. And if we become self-realized, we're not bewildered by this, then the next thing Krishna says, that the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress is like the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. It arises from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate these things. So it's much easier to tolerate these things when you can distance yourself a little bit from them in association of honest devotees who says, well, I got the same problem. And then you could kind of make jokes about these things, and that helps you distance yourself even further. And that gives you more energy to engage in the process of hearing and chanting. Repression, it actually means it's kind of like an anchor. You become, the anchor's there. And no matter how you try to pull away from it, the anchor's there. And that takes up a lot of energy trying to get away. But if you can actually engage deeply in the process of hearing and chanting, in Sangha with other devotees, even actually in the 6th verse of the 1st chapter, of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada makes the statement that it is more important to hear than it is to read these books. And reading itself is an abstraction of hearing. You can't read if you can't hear. Because if you can't hear, you can't learn you can't learn to read, because you learn to read by hearing the letters of the alphabet and then the combination of those letters. And eventually, you start by reading out loud, but then you eventually get to the point where you just scan read. But that's an abstraction of hearing. So I can experience in my own life that my struggle with material desires became much easier when I got into a reading group with other devotees. So we can never underestimate the power of hearing and chanting. Yeah? And the loving association of devotees, wherein you can reveal your mind in confidence. And by revealing your mind in confidence, you understand there's a commonality in all of our experiences. And then you begin to realize when these things arise, when lusty and greedy desires arise, you have enough detachment from them to say, oh, it's just my disease. I'm just having a relapse here. Just let it go. Because when you think about the way the mind works, like you become possessed with some desire for sense gratification. Well, it wasn't there 10 minutes ago, right? It's here now. But if I can distract my mind to something else, it won't be here 10 minutes from now. But if I meditate on it, if I allow myself to become absorbed in it, it's like George Harrison. He wrote devotional songs after he met Srila Prabhupada. And in one of his songs, he said, beware of thoughts that linger. Beware of this. Because on the other hand, you have to understand, we're in Devi Dham. And within the material world, Durga is omniscient. So she knows all the hooks and all the triggers and all the levers and all the switches and how to disrupt your consciousness. So with experience, by these practices, you become able to deal with these things better. And then as you keep going, as your taste develops, then the lower taste drops away. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you were saying that, the 6th verse of first canto, hearing and explaining is more important than reading.
Hearing and explaining.
Yeah.
So therefore, hearing and chanting. Hearing and explaining. Actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in one of his spiritual warrior books, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he cited some statistics about how people learn things or how people remember things, retain things. And the best way to retain something is to hear it and then explain it to someone else.
Yeah, thank you. We also see Prabhupada books. When you read Prabhupada books, it's like Prabhupada is talking to us. So can that be considered a hearing? How do we look at...
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Well, it's an abstraction of hearing. You can also listen to Prabhupada's lectures on the books. which are great elaborations of the purports. But either way, you can understand there's no separation. Srila Prabhupada is talking to you. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Yes. There's a microphone over there.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am currently dealing with anger. Like when somebody does A, I get angry. And
Well, if it's good
And
as
I'm
it's
like-
only, it's good that it's only A. When you get down to A, B, C, D, E, and F, then you really got a problem.
so, yeah, and then I keep telling Krishna, get rid of my anger from the root, like. But how do I practice so that I'm aware that it's happening?
Well, first of all, one has to understand that the anger is in me. I can say, oh, you have made me angry. Well, no, the anger's in me and something you do triggers it, right? So in that regard, I once read a little Buddhist story about a monk who he lived in a monastery by a lake, and he had his prescribed meditation time every day. And one day he thought, I think I'd like to row a boat out into the middle of the lake and meditate there. So he did. He rowed out and he threw the anchor and he was just sitting there in his boat and he started his meditation. He was deep in his meditation. Then all of a sudden, thud, something ran into his boat. And he thought, and he started to come out of his meditation and he was angry. He's thinking, what kind of idiot rows his boat straight into somebody else's boat in the middle of the lake? I mean, here I am in the middle of the lake. I mean, what are the odds that you're going to row into me here? Surely you can go. And all this is in his mind and anger's coming up. And as he opens his eyes and turns to just blast this idiot, it's an empty boat. It's an empty boat. And it's just loose on the lake and it ran into his boat. And that set off a real realization in him because he realized, well, if I can get so angry about an empty boat running into me, then I have to understand there's nothing there, nothing personal there, no person there that is actually triggering my anger. The anger's in me, and I react to any trigger. So if I start to see that whatever is triggering me is no different than an empty boat, it can happen anytime. It's not this person's fault that I'm getting angry at what they're doing. So I can start to distance myself then and understand, well, it's just, like I said a little earlier, it's just my disease. This is a disease that I have. And this is what triggers it. So then I have that much distance from it to understand, well, I get triggered by these things, but that's not the source of my anger. The source of my anger is some deep frustration within myself where something is not being gratified. In other words, a little later on in this section of the second chapter, Krishna talks about this. He talks, I'll just read the verses to you. Verses 62 and 63. Krishna says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. Because some lusty desire is not being fulfilled, either gross or subtle. Usually my experience about anger in relationships like you're talking about is that for some reason or another you feel offended somewhere, someone in your life, that you haven't been respected properly. Yes? So a very important thing is to understand, therefore, who am I actually angry towards, when and why? Because that's not been resolved. That's an anchor. Somebody, like I heard an analysis of the psychology of Adolf Hitler once, and the point was somebody offended him sometime in his life. Somebody really offended him. And actually, he was very offended at what happened to Germany after World War I. He was very angry about that, and he couldn't let it go. So it's very important to understand that I'm angry because I'm frustrated, because I had some lust, not just for material things, but for subtle things like adoration and distinction and respect. And I feel I've been abused. And therefore, the mind then sets up a whole set of circumstances and triggers that justifies you getting angry. And then when somebody says something that triggers you, you can be angry. But the anger is within us because we're frustrated in sense gratification.
So for me,
And I'm not saying just you. Yes?
okay. No, for me, I know it is two things that trigger me. One is when somebody is speaking in a very higher, sharp tone, like loudly and aggressively, it just throws me off. And if somebody is telling me, you don't do this, you do this. So these are the two things which trigger me. And I get angry and upset with them. Whereas I know the root is inside me, but that needs to be chopped out.
Well, like they say, count to 10. So chant Hare Krishna 10 times. Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you just start Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Because these kind of disturbing situations, they're always going to be there in the material world. For whatever reason you feel justified at being disturbed by them, or being angry about being disturbed by them, other things will take their place. There's always disturbance. Therefore, the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress arises from our sense perception of things. And we have to learn to tolerate that, because there will never be a situation where there's not some kind of discomfort for the mind or the body. And the simple solution is to distract the consciousness by acquiring the higher taste. And these things lose their importance. They lose their power over us because we become situated in a higher state of consciousness where we're actually experiencing reality. All that we're experiencing in the material world is all an illusion. It's unreal. It's happening, but it's actually as a result of a misconception. The misconception is that I am this body and I am this mind. These feelings that I have in this conditioned state, we take them to be us and ours. So the chanting of the holy name, the acquisition of the higher taste, takes us above this false ego level and enables us to understand that really we have nothing to do with any of this. This is all to do with the mind and the body. I'm misidentifying myself with the mind and the body. But the chanting of Hare Krishna helps us transcend the influence of the false ego and come to the level where we understand, I am not this. We can all do just, yes, sir. You want to say something about this? Yeah. Please. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Haribo.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. It doesn't, okay, now it's on. Okay. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Labante Brahma Nirvana Rusik Simakamasa China Dvaitya Tatmana Sarabhuta Hiterata. He says, one who is free of the dualities that arise from doubt. It's a very powerful statement. Krishna, he tests us. So we should have faith that whatever Krishna is doing is good. So he tests us. So if there's some reversal, we should understand he's testing us, and many tests will come. So how to pass the test? That's the big question. We have to have good sadhana, as he was saying. If we read Prabhupada's books, if we chant nicely, then when these tests come, if someone makes you upset, then you just think, Krishna's in control, he's testing me. He's testing me. So we have to pass the test. Many tests will come. Yeah. So another thing I wanted to mention is there's also pure anger.
Oh.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Hanuman was angry like anything. But he was one of the greatest Vaishnavas. He was angry at Ravana. And Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna to get him angry, to fight, to have Yudhisthira as the king. So anger is not bad. It's what we're angry at. Yeah. There's material anger and there's spiritual anger. So to avoid material anger, we have to have very good sadhana. And then when these reversals come, these tests come, we'll just think, Krishna's in control. He's testing me. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu. That was very brave of you to ask that, make that admission. But then you can see you're in a spiritual atmosphere, and there's no judgment about this. This is just a phase, really.
Hare Krishna, have a question.
Where are you? Yes. Where? Yes, sir.
How do you feel the presence of a loved one who is not alive anymore? If they are next to you, when the person is there, when they exist, you feel them, you talk to them, and you feel the closeness. But when they are not there, how do you establish the closeness?
I'm sorry, but that's really not a question about what we're discussing here.
Okay, thank you.
That's a whole other subject. We're talking about how we're able to transcend the influence of the material energy on us by acquiring the taste for Krishna consciousness. Yes?
Yes.
But actually, we can take that question and apply it to Krishna. Because Krishna is the loved one of all of us. We're all actually lovers of Krishna. But we've forgotten Krishna. And because we've forgotten Krishna, we're actually missing him. But we don't know that we are missing him because we've forgotten him. And in contact with this material energy, we give our loving propensity to so many situations and persons that are only temporarily in our lives. Yes?
Yes.
But everyone you meet and everyone you develop a relationship with is another suffering soul forgetful of their relationship with Krishna. So what we all really need to be doing is to feel the presence of Krishna again in our lives. And that feeling the presence of Krishna is acquired by, as this gentleman was saying, having a good sadhana, developing a relationship with Krishna through the practice of hearing and chanting, enables us to actually experience a reawakening of the deeper love that exists within us, and that is our love for Krishna. And then we can re-enter our relationship with Krishna on the platform of eternity and become liberated from the repetition of birth and death, in which we experience the kind of loss that you're talking about over and over and over again. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I've been attending ISKCON-related events maybe for the past 4 or 5 years. I came from a different practice of Hinduism. In the Gita, Krishna says, I go by many names. On the temple in Mathura, at Krishna's birthplace, it says, God does not live in temples. So I find austerities, and I have often prayed to Vishnu, right? Krishna pays homage to Lord Ram with the peacock feather on his crown. And isn't it all Krishna? So I find that I'll do seva sometimes at a gurdwara. I don't talk to people much. I just wash dishes and do whatever they need to, and then I go. And then I come to bhakti. So you feel close to Krishna, and all of the austerities were already familiar to me when I arrived. Vegetarianism, service, all things that came very easily to me. But I never got clarity on what does that mean. I go by many names, right? And so doesn't God just transcend these names, and it's all the same? It's all Krishna. It's all the absolute, isn't it?
Well, let's talk about the idea of God, yes? You'll find in practically every monotheistic tradition that there is generic information about God. God is omnipotent, God is omnipotent, God is omnipresent, God is omniscient, He's all merciful. So many qualities of God. Even the word God is describing a quality of this person. And actually, God is the position. So, President of the United States is also a position. But there's always a person who occupies that position. Now, in the question of discussing the nature of God, there can only ever be one person in that position. And that person, so who is that person? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, I am that person. But Krishna is one of his names. But he has, and he's named by his qualities and the nature of his activities. Krishna means the all-attractive. Rama means the reservoir of all pleasure. Same person, two different qualities. But also, Krishna is an unlimited personality. And every aspect of his personality is a personality. You've heard of the concept of personality disorder, multiple personality disorder. So Krishna has multiple personalities, but there's no disorder there. He's not confused about any of this. So in one sense, the saying, it is all one, is true, in that we have Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who expands himself in unlimited numbers of forms that are persons. But the Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam, is predicated on the understanding that Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the source of everything. And he is a person. But he goes up by many names. Yasodanandan, Nandanandan, so many names. Like can we put the Jai Radha Madhava song up again? These are names of Krishna. Yes? He's named according to his activities and his qualities. Now, in terms of how we contact Krishna, how we come in contact with Krishna, the Bhagavatam explains that the Supreme Absolute Truth is non-dual, but is understood as in different phases of development of understanding, from Brahman to Paramatma to Bhagavan. But without Bhagavan, there is no Paramatma and there's no Brahman. Yes? Everything rests upon me, Krishna says. Everything. Mata parataram nanyat kinchidasti dananjaya mai savamidang protam sutre manigana iva. This is a very important verse in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse number 7, where Krishna says, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes? So, as I was saying in the talk, it's really a question of developing a taste for Krishna consciousness, developing a taste for Krishna. And actually, it's not even developing, it's redeveloping. Because originally, we are all in relationship with Krishna in a personal sense. But we've been separated from that relationship for a very long time. So Krishna seems to be quite unusual in the beginning. And why just Krishna? Why not this? Why not that? But then you need to develop a proper scientific understanding of the categories of reality, of truth. Krishna is real. Krishna is not a figment of someone's imagination. And you can feel his presence by chanting his name. Yes? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
There we go. 5 o'clock we finish? 10 minutes. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am very much new to Krishna. So I apologize if what I'm going to ask isn't as closely related to what we're discussing, but I was just wondering, how does acquiring a taste for Krishna consciousness help us prepare for death?
How does acquiring a taste for Krishna consciousness help us?
Prepare for death.
Ah, wow. We have a serious person here. The basic answer to that, how it prepares us, is perfectly. It prepares us perfectly. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that you're going to change your body. You're going to have to leave this world. We're just passing through. So you're going somewhere. So where are you going? And he explains in the Bhagavad Gita that whatever you think of at the time of your death, that state you will attain. And he says, of this there's no doubt. And that what you think about is habitual. If you have a habit of thinking about a certain thing in your lifetime and you're very attached to that thing, then that's where you tend to take shelter when you're in distress. Yes? So it's a habit of thinking of Krishna that we have to develop. It's a habit. We're creatures of habit. And Krishna says, if you develop the habit of thinking about me, and if you think of me at the time that you die, then you'll come to me. Yes? So how do we prepare ourselves for that? In the second chapter of this second chapter of the Bhagavatam is very important. The second chapter of the first canto, in the 14th verse, Sutta Goswami has been explaining how we can develop this consciousness. And he says, in conclusion, one should hear about, glorify, remember, glorify, and worship Krishna, who is the protector of the devotees. And in the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada says these four activities of hearing about, remembering, glorifying, and worshipping anything or anyone are standard activities in everyone's life. Actually, that's how we live. So if you're thinking about the New York Jets and you're remembering all the players and the coach and where they are in the rankings and so on, and you're meeting with other people who are into football and especially the Jets, and you're talking about this one or that one, or you're talking about past glories of the Jets and so on, and this becomes a very valuable part of your life, then you're going to be conditioned to think in that way. And after one particular Jets game, you might just step out in the street and get hit by a bus. And what are you thinking about? How we got robbed in the last 30 seconds of the last game. So you may end up a football, a pig, and have your skin cut off and made a football. Who knows? It's like a very risky business that we're in this world. But our future is determined always by the decisions we make and the actions we take as a result of those decisions. And we have to make our decisions on the basis of information. We have to have knowledge to make choices. So by hearing these facts from Krishna, that whatever you think of at the time of your death, that's where you're going to go. And if you can think of me at the time of your death, then you'll come to me. And the way you develop the ability to think of me is to hear about me, remember me, glorify me, and worship me in the association of like-minded people. Yes? And then you're very well prepared to die. It's a good question. Thank you. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I'm new to this as well.
So am I.
Before we die, I guess my question is, we want to live a life full of happiness, and I think happiness can only come if you can overcome anxiety and fear of unknown. Right? So through Krishna consciousness, how do you deal with those two factors?
There's a very nice verse that explains that this chanting of the holy name of the Lord, after the ways of the great authorities on the subject, very quickly becomes the path of doubtlessness and fearlessness, uncertainty and anxiety. Is what you're talking about. We live in a world of uncertainty and anxiety, but we want happiness. But even the happiness we acquire within this world is uncertain and full of anxiety because we know it's all going to come to an end anyway. But by chanting the holy name of the Lord, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one develops, as we've been talking today, one develops a higher state of consciousness. One gets a higher taste and becomes fixed in consciousness, understanding that if I take shelter of Krishna, there's no reason to be anxious or fearful of anything. And that in that state, I become blissfully happy. Yes? And that blissful happiness is predicated on the understanding that this is eternal. So Krishna explains in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that this Krishna consciousness process is susukam katam avyayam. It is joyfully, it is eternally and joyfully performed. Joyfulness is latent, this eternal joyfulness and happiness in relationship to Krishna, in our loving relationship with Krishna, is actually now dormant within us. And that becomes reawakened by the hearing and chanting process. Yes?
Thank you. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
One quick one? One last one? Yes, sir.
I just want to add one comment. One comment.
A comment?
Yeah, it's not a question. People are looking for happiness.
I beg your pardon?
People are looking for happiness in this material world. The conditioned soul is looking for happiness. And many are misguided. They go to different clubs. Sometimes they do so many different things. As I was growing up, I could see some are interested in cricket, some are interested in fishing, some are interested in gambling.
Yes.
Some are interested in going to movies.
Yes.
Variety of things. You have variety of things to do in this material world to achieve this so-called happiness. But when I look back, I was indulging in some of those things. And when I look back before coming to Krishna conscious, and after coming to Krishna conscious, we have a process of bhakti which will guarantee you happiness. It's not some imaginary process. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says also, Anandhambudhi Vardhanam Pratipatam Purnamrita Swadanam Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The process of bhakti gives you happiness that is unlimited and it grows day by day. So this is like an insurance policy. You want to be happy, subscribe to this insurance policy.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Afterlife insurance. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo, Haribo. Hare Krishna. You want to lead the kirtan? You want to lead the kirtan? Who leads the kirtan? Ah, he's leading. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. We will have now Sandhya Harati of their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Sriman Mahaprabhu Sri Lakshmi Narasimha. So Matajis can stand on this side and Prabhujis can stand this other side. And we can put all the chairs in the back and we can have dancing and kirtan together. Hare Krishna. I'll have a kirtan. Namo Yong Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminite Namine Namo Yong Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminite Namine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai Gauranga. Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai Nitai Gauranga Jaya, Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Parivajakaacharya Stotra Sat His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivajakaacharya Stotra Sat His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Ramacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की नवदीप मायापुर धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा मई की यमुना मई की भक्ति देवी की तुलसी महारानी की समवेत भक्त वृंद की हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की ऑल ग्लोरीज असेंबल डिवोटी ऑल ग्लोरीज असेंबल डिवोटी ऑल ग्लोरीज असेंबल डिवोटी all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
Please have a seat. We will have a Narsimha Aarti now.
Namaste Nara Shrimhaya. Namaste Nara Shrimhaya. Pralada
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We welcome you all to the Sunday Feast Festival here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. It's such a nice, beautiful weather outside, but thank you for taking your valuable time and coming here and attending the Sunday Feast program. So let's give a big round of applause to everyone who has joined us here tonight. Haribo! We will also like to thank all our online viewers. So let's give them a big round of applause as well. Today's talk and discourse was brought to us by His Grace Bhagavat Ashraya Prabhuji. So let's express our gratitude and thank for an excellent class. Hari Hari Bol! It was such a nice, beautiful class from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and there was very nice Q&A. So if you missed any part of it, all the lecture is recorded online, so you can go either in Facebook or YouTube, you can watch it. Hare Krishna. So we'll also like to thank His Grace Kuladev Prabhuji for leading the Aarti. Haribo. And also Her Grace Nilachal Chandra Mataji for leading the Narsimha Aarti. Haribo. We'll also like to thank Charunimai Prabhu, His Grace Charunimai Prabhu, for bringing us the broadcast program. Haribo. Anyone coming here for the first time? Thank you. Thank you. We have few visitors. Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or we could be of any assistance, please reach out to me. My name is Sri Gopal Das. We will be happy to assist you in any way we can. So let's chant one Mahamantra for all our first time devotees. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what's coming up? This is a very exciting time of the year that we all await. We had such a nice festival season, starting with Janmashtami, Radhashtami, and then the Bhadra Purnima. Now this is the cherry on the top, right? So it's an excellent weekend celebrations that we're going to have here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. We will be celebrating the Vyasa Puja, which is the appearance day of our temple president, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, here at ISKCON of Salipal. So let's go, Haribol! Devotees are already preparing for the big event. There will be a lot of things happening throughout the week. If you want to volunteer, please join. Just come anytime. Here in the temple, you will find some activity or the other going on, so you can join in. The program will start early in the morning. The timings will be sent out in the email. But the main program will start from 8 a.m. till it will go till 1 p.m. So please look out for the email that will go out shortly in a couple of days. And then on Sunday, we will have the initiation ceremonies here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. So again, the timing will be announced shortly, but roughly it's around 3 o'clock and till 6 p.m. So we'll all hope to see you for this weekend celebrations. Hare Krishna. We have a couple of sponsors for today's Sunday feast. We'd like to acknowledge them. First is Her Grace Sudevi Mataji and the family, his husband Rajeshwar Vapula Prabhu. They are sponsoring in the memory of Rajeshwar Prabhu's father's disappearance. It's a 12th disappearance day. So they are sponsoring in the memory of his father and Sudevi Mataji's father-in-law. So let's thank them. Is Sudevi Mataji? I saw her, but if you are listening, Mataji, please join in. And in the meanwhile, I will announce the second sponsor. His Grace Anantanitai Prabhu and Nidhi Mataji would like to sponsor today's feast, seeking the blessings from the devotees on the occasion of Thakur Kanaiya's 6 months. Haribol! Here is Thakur Kanaiya. Haribol! Haribol! We recently witnessed the very wonderful ceremony, Annaprasanna ceremony. He, sumptuously had the kheer. So thank you, Prabhu and Mataji. Please come, you also. Thank you for sponsoring today's feast and such a nice occasion. Please say a few words.
Hare Krishna. We would like to seek blessings from all the devotees so that Thakur Kanai may become helplessly attracted to the devotee association and take spiritual journey with whole heart. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So let's chant one Mahamantra for Thakur Kanaiya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's chant one more Mahamantra for our Sudevi Mataji's sponsorship. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Do we have the cooks announcement? I know there is a army of cooks that were preparing today's feast. Okay, I think the cooking team was led by Her Grace Krishangi Mataji and the team. So, please honor the prasad outside. We will, after we recite the prasadam praise. Hare Krishna.
This is the most joyful prayer for all the devotees. So we'll sing together. It's written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Sharira vidyajal jadendriya tahe kal jive fele vishaya shagare তার মধ্যে জীবায়তে লোভময় সুদুর্মতি তাকে যে তা কঠিন সংসারে কৃষ্ণ বড় দয়াময় করিবারে জীব সপ্রসাদন দিল ভাই সে অনামৃত পাও শ্রী শ্রী রাধা কৃষ্ণ গুণ গাও প্রেমে ডাকো শ্রী চৈতন্য নিতাই প্রেমে ডাকো শ্রী চৈতন্য নিতাই महाप्रसादे गोविंदे नाम ब्रह्मणि वैष्णवे स्वल्प पुण्यवतां राजन् विश्वासनैव जायते प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हरिरसोपजायते प्रसन्नचेता श्रियासु बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते तायोपभुक्त संगन्धा वास अलंकार चर्चिता उच्चिष्ट भोजिनां दासस् तवोमयं जयमहे शुष्कां पर्युषितां वापि नेतां माधुरदेशता प्राप्तिमात्रेण भोक्तव्या नात्र कालविचाराण न देशनियमस्तत्र न कालनियमस्तथा प्राप्तमन्नं युतं शिष्ट्वै भोक्तव्यं हरिरब्रवीत्. Please come take honor prasadam. Honor prasadam is being served in the picnic area. Hare Krishna.